بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. In greater sins, we are on the next sin, which is short weighing and cheating in business. He says the 24th greater sin is short weighing or underweighing and cheating in business. This is recorded in Holy Quran and narration of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam and Imam Rida alayhi salam. Imam says decreasing in measure and weight is also a greater sin. It's haram for a seller to give less than the specified quantity or for the debtor to repay less than what is specified. It says in the Quran that a terrible punishment is for the person who does this sin. And unfortunately, it's quite common in marketplaces all the way till today. Quran talks about this, and we have surah named after Mutaffifin. It says, woe to the ones who defraud. This is Surah 83. Woe to the defrauders who, when they take the measure of their dues from people, they take it in full. But when they measure out to other people and weigh out to them, they are deficient. Do they not think that they will be raised again for a mighty day, the day on which men will stand before their Lord, the Lord of the worlds? So when they want what's due to them, they make sure that everything is there. But when they give to others, they weigh less, or they don't put much detail into it, or they defraud other people. It says, nay, most surely the record of the wicked is in the Sijin. And what will make you know what is the Sijin? It is a written book. The author says Sijin is either the name of that register which contains the account of deeds of the disbelievers and the transgressors, or it is a special corner of the hellfire where the disbelievers and sinners will be sent to. Also, it could have double meaning. It doesn't mean that it has to be like one or the other. It could have both meanings. It could be an account of these and also a place. Like we see, for example, with Mizan. Mizan, we have narrations that the Mizan are Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, but we also have narrations of Mizan being a scale, so it could mean both things. He said that the translation of the verses will be as follows. They should be fearful, for it is written down that the transgressors will go to the Sijin. And what can explain to you what the Sijin is? It has already been written about, and a decision has been taken which cannot be changed. We also see in Surah Hud that Shu'aib alayhi salam, he was saying to his people, O my people, serve Allah, you have no God other than him, and do not give short measure and weight. Surely I see you in prosperity, and surely I fear for you the punishment of an all-encompassing day. O my people, give full measure and weight fairly, and defraud not men their things, and do not act corruptly in the land, making mischief. So one of the corruptions in the time of Shu'aib was underweighing and cheating in business, and he used to preach to his people a lot about this, and we discussed it when we went over the chapter of Nabi Shu'aib alayhi salam, when we were talking about in the other class and God's emissaries. According to the Holy Quran, the one who resorts to short weighing or defrauding doesn't believe in day of judgment and the hereafter. The author says, if the person had any belief in the hereafter, he would know that even if he succeeds in fooling people, he would never be able to hide his sins from Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of the worlds. And he would realize that on the day of judgment, he would have to take account for whatever he did by defrauding, and he would have to make good that loss from his own deeds. Because he wronged other people, on that day, they will take some of his deeds. And a lot of people, say someone does believe in day of judgment, but they don't have the fear of day of judgment. They don't have the faith in it truly, because if they really knew what would take place because of these sins, they wouldn't do it. But sometimes the emotions or the situation gets the better of them. They feel, oh, I can get ahead of them and I can cheat. But that money they make from cheating is haram money. When they buy something with that, that money is haram. It makes the thing they buy haram. The food can be haram. The clothing can be haram. All of these things can be haram because they got their money from haram way, haram source. So it's very important to make sure that we have halal income. Because, for example, this person cheats someone in their business and they underway and they sell it to the people cheating them. They take the money is haram. They take the haram money and go buy halal meat from the halal meat market. It doesn't even matter. The meat is haram for them because the money they used is haram. So it makes the meat haram, even if it was slaughtered halal and they buy from halal meat market. So it shows the importance of uh, where our source of income comes from, and to make sure that our money is pure and not from defrauding or bad business transactions or cheating others. He said a butcher who was an idol worshiper used to give more than the prescribed weight. When people asked him the reason for this, he pointed up towards the top of the wall and said, I give more because of him. When people looked up, they saw that there was an idol on the wall. Another idol worshiping shopkeeper was well known for his habit of looking toward the idol before he proceeded in weighing his goods. So they would be mindful of their idol. It says when Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam and Zuleika were alone in the room, Zuleika covered up the idol with the cloth before she proceeded to tempt Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. And he said, why have you covered the idol? She said, I feel ashamed before the idol. So Yusuf said, you feel ashamed before a lifeless idol created by men when it has no power of understanding. How can I not feel shamed before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is all present and all seeing? He is all hearing, all knowing. How can I not be ashamed before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He is always seeing me. We cannot cover the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we can say, like they do with this idol. Allah does not have eyes, but just a comparison so that we can understand. We cannot cover the vision of Allah that He cannot see in the way that we can do whatever we want. As the famous saying goes, if you go somewhere where Allah is not there and do whatever you want. Well, there is nowhere that you can go where Allah is not, His knowledge is not present. He said after this, he told her that, and then he ran away from that place and saved himself. The author says it's a great pity that idol worshippers are ashamed to commit sins in front of their idols, which are lifeless objects, whereas Muslims have no problem committing sins before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for whom nothing is hidden in the heavens and the earth. We have to build up our recognition of the hereafter. We have to have ma'rifah of Day of Judgment to the point that it's present in our mind. When a deed comes before us, we see the result of that action, whether it will lead to divine reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or it will lead to divine punishment from Allah. In that way, when we look at it, we can make the proper decision at that moment. Should I proceed with this action, or should I stay away from this action? Most people only look at the worldly outcome of the actions, whereas the believer looks at what pleases his Lord. So when we think in this way, it will save us a lot of hardship in this life and in the hereafter. But many people are led by their desires. They do whatever feels good to them in the moment, whereas we have to think about what will be good for us in the next life. He says, the following tradition has been recorded from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. According to this tradition, there are 5 types of sins which bring about 5 types of calamities. One of them, when the people of a community break promises and oaths, Allah makes their enemies to reign over them. So how about those communities who broke their oath to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to follow the Quran, to follow the messenger and the one he appointed at غَيْرِكُمْ, when he said, Man kuntu mawla fahada aliyan mawla. We have to collectively get back to the straight path and follow the ones who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to us in order to save ourselves from a bad ending. Look at the people of Yunus alayhi salam. They all rejected their messenger, yet when they saw the punishment coming towards them, they all repented and they returned to the path of the messenger that was sent to them. And this way, the punishment was diverted from them. And these stories of the prophets were sent to us for us to take lessons from them. So we see that majority of the struggle is that we are going through today is because the people abandoned Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and they followed others who were not appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were not divinely appointed, and they chose their desires and did whatever they wanted to do. And now we're in the state that we are in now. The people should repent from this mistake and turn back to the ones who Allah appointed, accepting the 12 Imams, who are mentioned even in Sunni narrations that they will have 12 Khalifa after him, from Quraysh. So these are A'imma alayhimus salam from Ahlul Bayt. The second one is when people order against the revealed divine commands. Poverty certainly is widespread. So we see that sometimes society, even Muslim ones, they allow haram and they forbid halal things. So when they go against the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to follow, there will be certain consequences for that. So we see a lot of the sufferings that are happening around the world, especially in the Muslim lands. We look at the laws that they have enacted there, and they are allowing haram and they are forbidding halal. So when this happens, Prophet says, when the people go against the commands of Allah, then they will have poverty. He says, when immorality is practiced openly, deadly diseases certainly increase. Example of this is we look at the AIDS virus. Look at how it was predominantly spread through immorality of unlawful sexual relations or through drug use, sharing needles, and so on and so forth, was predominantly the way that it was spread through, having unlawful relations. We see also when immorality is practiced openly, the deadly diseases certainly increase. We can all say that we lived through this COVID pandemic. Who knows that it could be something like this? Because when we look at society, whether we look at TV, we look at the music industry, we look at anywhere we go, honestly, all we see is immorality. Everywhere we turn, we look, we see immorality. It is so prevalent that if someone is righteous or someone tries to walk on the Sirat al-Mustaqim, they're looked at as someone strange and foreign, and it said Islam came as a stranger and will return as a stranger, so it will be something strange. Unfortunately, this is the case. Immorality, bad akhlaq, or no akhlaq, we can say, fahsha, is prevalent in most places. And the hadith says that when this happens, deadly diseases will increase. The last one refers to our topic that we're discussing. When people short weigh and short measure, then there is a decrease in agricultural output, decrease in livelihood, and there is less rainfall. We have hadith from Imam Bakr alayhi salam that he quoted from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, seek refuge in Allah from the fire under the following conditions. Whenever widespread sexual corruption appears in society, new illnesses and plagues will become epidemic. Whenever sellers cheat the buyers, they will face high living expenses, the oppression of the king, and famine. Whenever the people abandon the alms tax, paying the taxes, the khums, the zakat, it will not rain much, just some for the sake of the animals. Whenever the people break their covenant with Allah and His prophets, their enemies will conquer them and capture some of their wealth. And lastly, whenever the people decree against divinely descended decrees, they will have fights among themselves, and Allah will leave them to their own desires, leave them alone. So we see this is very similar to the narration mentioned in the book. So we have to beware of these things, and unfortunately, we see a lot of these things are prevalent in today's society. Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he found himself free from doing his work, he used to go to the bazaar and he would announce to the people, "O people, fear Allah, weigh and measure with justice, do not cheat people by giving less, and do not spread corruption in the earth." One day, Imam Ali alayhi salam saw someone selling saffron, and they were cutting the weight, they were short weighing. He said, he saw the person that he applied oil to his hand, and very cunningly he applied it to the pan of the balance which held the saffron. Imam Ali alayhi salam picked the saffron up from the balance and said, "First, fix your balance. Then, if you like, you can give more than that." So he was telling him in a way that, I know what you are doing, and you shouldn't do that. And it would be better for you actually if you overweighed and you gave them more than what they paid for. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "One who does misappropriation in weighing and measuring is thrown into the lowest section of the hellfire. There he shall be placed between two mountains of fire. He will be told to weigh those mountains. He will be busy in this task forever." It's mentioned in Tafsir that a person by the name of Malik went to visit a friend who was sick. Malik said, "I saw him in a bad condition. He was screaming, 'Two mountains of fire are going to crash on me.' I told him, 'It's only just some illusion you are seeing. You're just seeing things because you are delusional.' He said, 'No, it is true, because I have two different balances. With one of them, I used to short weigh people when I would sell to them. And the other balance, I would take it with me when I would buy from people, and I would get the full balance. I am punished for this very soon.'" So we see that this person on his deathbed, he was able to see the punishment that was before him. At this moment, it is too late. We have to rectify and fix these things. And no amount of money or dunya should be worth selling ourselves short in the hereafter. We would be shortchanging ourselves. He says it is haram to short weigh or to shortchange. It is also haram to short measure, like measurement of cloth or land, which are sold by measurements. They should also not be under measured. It's absolutely haram in the same way those items which are sold by number, like eggs or fruits. If someone sells them to a person and gives less than the specified quantity, he is counted among those who short weigh and short measure. For example, the person sells eggs by the dozen, they're by 12, and he undercuts them and gives them 11 eggs. And if he did not inform them of this, then they would be under weighing, under measuring. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in narration about the muharramat, he says, "Whoever defrauds a Muslim in buying or selling is not from us, and he will be raised on the day of resurrection with the Jews, for they are the ones who defraud the Muslims the most." So we see here that those people who cheat in their business and underway, they will be raised not even as a Muslim, they will be raised as a person from a whole nother religion. So it's very serious. A lot of people think, oh, it's not a big deal, it's just something I do in my business. I get over on the people and I cheat them. I give one price for this person, one price for that person. But it is actually detrimental to our faith and our position in hereafter. He said the amount of goods given less by the seller is owed to the buyer. It is obligatory to give the balance amount to the buyer. If the buyer is dead, then he needs to give it to his heirs. If he doesn't know the buyer, if he does not know the buyer, he must, with the permission of the marja or the jurist, pay a similar amount of sadaqah on behalf of the buyer. So it doesn't matter, even if the person who he owes, even if he passed away, he is not off the hook. He still owes that. So he needs to find out the deceased relatives, the heirs to that person, and pay it to them. Even he cannot find these people, he has to give that money in sadaqah on behalf of them. It's not like he can keep that money. He still needs to pay it on behalf of the one that he defrauded. If the seller doesn't know how much he has given, how much less he has given, how much he has cheated the person, basically, he must give him some amount that will satisfy the buyer. If the buyer is dead, he must satisfy the heir of that deceased buyer. If the buyer is unknown, then the mujtahid must be satisfied with the amount that he gives on his behalf. If it is short weighing and short measuring when the seller gives less without the knowledge of the buyer. The buyer does not realize that he has been giving less and then the stipulated quantity, but it is defrauding when the seller sells some goods of an inferior quality and makes it out to be of something of good quality. In this case, too, the buyer is unaware of being cheated. So these two, we can sell them under measure, or they sell inferior product and claim it as a superior. The seller may also adulterate the goods. In this case, it's not short weighing, but it is a haram because it's a kind of fraud. For example, the grain seller, he takes 95 kilos of wheat with 5 kilos of mud and sells it for 100 kilos of wheat. So he is defrauding by 5 kilos. Or a milkman, he sells the milk as 100% milk, but he is adding water to the milk and diluting it. Or a shopkeeper sells a kilo of ghee, but under it he puts a 1/4 kilo of stone beneath the layer of that. Or a butcher commits fraud if he adds more than a reasonable amount of bones when selling the meat, so he can weigh it for more. Vegetable sellers increase the weight of vegetables by pouring water over the vegetables, so they weigh more. All these types of frauds are included in this sin of underweighing or cheating, even if the seller is weighing the goods accurately. So he weighs it accurately on the scale. He's not cheating the scale, but he did something to make it weigh more. He added mud, he added water, he added something else to it to make the item heavier so he can charge more. To mix an inferior quality of wheat with the good quality, or this is also haram. In Maqasid from Sheikh al-Ansari, he says the tradition prohibiting adulteration is mutawatir, so it's widely narrated where it is accepted by all. Sheikh Saduq, he says that one who sells adulterated goods to Muslims is not from us. This is prophetic narration from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the one who sells these items, they're not from us, he says. He'll be raised with the Jews on day of judgment. And the Prophet said, because one who does this, he defrauds and alters the goods, he is not from the Muslims. The Prophet also said, one who gives us adulterated goods is not from us. And he said this sentence 3 times. Then he said, and Allah will remove barakat, blessings, from the livelihood of the Muslim brothers. Allah will destroy his economy and leave him on his own fate, his own condition. So we see that we all want the best of rizq. of sustenance, and we always want to increase our sustenance, and we look for ways to increase our sustenance. But Allah says, the Prophet says about Allah saying that He will remove the barakat from this livelihood. The Muslim who is doing this, he thinks he is getting ahead. He's being smart. He's cheating, and he is going to get the money. So he does whatever he does, and then, but Allah will remove barakat. So you are not getting ahead by doing this. They're only getting further problems, because Allah is removing the blessings for them and will destroy his economy, his income, and this type of earning. I remember there was some story about Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, paraphrasing the story, that he had a shield, and he wanted someone to watch over the shield, and while he was doing something, and the person stole the shield and ran away and went in the market and sold the shield for, let's just say, some number, let's just say 30 dinar, for example. He sold the shield. So Imam walked through the bazaar, and he found the shield, and he said, "This is my shield. I will, I want my shield back. How much did you sell the shield for?" He said 30 dinar, and he said, "This was the price that I was going to pay the guy for watching over my shield." But he stole the shield, and he got the money from haram way, but the money was going to come to him from a halal way. But he wanted to be smart and get ahead and think that he could do something to rush that sustenance and get it from haram. So a lot of time, the people who are underweighing and cheating think that this is a good way that they can get ahead and they can fill their pockets or their banks with money. But at the same time, it is haram, and it will cause sins to come to the person, and it will eventually destroy their livelihood. He says there's a story here mentioned. An honest perfume seller of Karbala had fallen sick. He tried the treatment of every doctor in the town, but it didn't work. He spent all his money for his treatment, but he was not cured. One day I went to pay him a visit. I saw that he was upset. He was instructing his son to sell everything in the house. He was saying, "Sell everything. I don't want anything left. Either I will die or I will be cured." I asked him, "What do you mean?" He sighed and he answered, "At the beginning of my career, I was not so rich. During that time, an epidemic fever broke out in Karbala. The doctors prescribed lime juice for the cure. Since the disease was widespread, there was a great demand for this lime juice. So I began to adulterate the lime juice and mix it with yogurt. I sold it at a very high rate. Gradually, the stocks of the lime juice with the other shopkeepers, it ended. So they all began to send their customers to me. Soon the stock of the lime juice in my shop also sold out. Now I began to sell only yogurt by adding some color to the yogurt and some sour material to it. And I sold this concoction and said that it was lime juice. My pockets became full, and I continued to get lots of money from this. Today, I find that all of this property is no use to me. My disease is incurable. So I wish to get rid of all the things that I obtained in this haram way, in the hope that after doing this, maybe I will be cured." Not much time had passed after this incident when the perfume seller, he died. He was definitely, he owed those people who he sold that mixed lime juice to. So this was a right that he owed to them. And we see that all of these things that he obtained were from haram sources. And then he eventually fell victim to a disease and died from this. And all the things that he amassed, he lost all of them. Imam Bakr alayhi salam says, one day Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa was passing through the bazaar of Medina. He told a wheat seller, "Your wheat is very good quality. Then he put his hands inside the pile of the wheat and he found the inferior quality below it. He said that I see that you have gathered the provisions of misappropriation and adulteration. So the prophet told him that now you are mixing the things. Your wheat looks very nice, it's on the top, but what is below it is inferior quality. So someone sells you something very nice. They just put the things on top of the bag, and then under it, everything is rotten. For example, the fruits are rotten, the things are bad. For example, a person would buy a bucket of strawberries, and the strawberries on the bottom are rotten, but they sprinkle the nice ones all over the top, so you just see the top, and you don't move them around. You say, oh, they look very nice, and take it, and get home and find out that majority of the strawberries are all rotten. This is a type of cheating. Al-Mahilli, he says that a man asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, if a person has two types of goods, one is superior and expensive quality, and the other one is less, it's inferior, and it's cheaper quality, can he mix these two and sell them at a special type of rate? Imam says it is not correct for him to sell the adulterated goods to Muslims. However, there is no harm if he informs them of the adulteration. So this is the case. So if we have some good quality something and we want to sell it, we should sell it as good quality. We have lesser quality stuff, we should sell it as lesser quality. And the problem comes if I mix the two and I don't tell you, and I say these are good quality, 100%, and you buy thinking that it's good, but it's really half and half or mixed some way. But let's say that the good quality is $10 per kilo, and the other quality is $5 per kilo, the lesser quality. Let's say I want to take these two and mix them together 50-50. And I say it's mixture. I let you know, and I say it's a mixture of good and inferior and superior quality. It's mixture, but I will sell it to you for $7.50. It's halfway between these two. I sell it to you for this. If you agree, then you can buy it. If not, but I have informed you and I've let you know. This is the thing. When there's something wrong with a product that we're selling, we have to inform them. We see this cheating and adulteration also very present in the used car industry, because when you know of a defect in the car, you cannot hide it. And this is what they do most of the time. They hide the defects and they don't tell you. And in this way, they think they are getting something superior, but you don't let them know of the defects. And this is type of haram transaction. You have to let them know, and then they can make their decision. So there is a lot of problem in this industry with this, because if you're honest, you won't make that much money. And if you are dishonest, you will make a lot of money, but you'll get a lot of sins. So the people that I know that mostly they went into this type of business, they end up leaving it and said, I cannot do it because I need to inform them of everything. And if I inform them of everything, it's, this is not a good business. They said there's too many problems in it. Imam said, this other hadith, Dawood ibn Sujan asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, I had two types of musk. One was wet and the other one is dry. I sold the wet and fresh musk, but no one wanted to buy the dry one at the same rate. Is it permitted for me to make it wet so that it is sold? The Imam told him, no, it's not allowed. But if you inform the buyer that you made it wet, then it is something else. So basically, you can do these things. You can put milk in water and sell it if you let the person know and say, this is not 100%, this is mixed. Or I'm selling a product, but it is a imitation product. I'm telling you, this is the original Louis Vuitton bag. for example, and I sell this to you for thousands of dollars, but really it's an imitation bag. I have to make the person aware that this is not authentic, but if you like it, I sell it to you, and this is the price I sell it, and you can agree to buy it or not buy it. I can mix superior grain with inferior grain and sell it, as long as I inform the person and say, it's mixed, this is the price. If you like it, you can take it. If not, but I have to let you know. Said people have been ordered not only to refrain from defrauding each other, but they also must not cheat and defraud while fulfilling their obligations towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and A'imma alayhi salam, and all of mankind. Because we see here that Allah is not deficient while fulfilling the rights of the people. He has taken upon himself to give sustenance to everyone. He bestows man with unlimited favors. He listens to him and fulfills his wishes in keeping his well-being. He says, so it is incumbent upon man to be faithful in fulfilling his duties towards Allah. Man cannot do this by being thankful. He says man can do this by being thankful to Allah for his blessings, by obeying his commands, by carrying out his obligations, fulfilling his wajibat. Thus, one who follows shaitan and his own selfish desires has disobeyed Allah. He has not fulfilled Allah's rights. His prayers are not answered immediately. He becomes impatient. And he does not realize that he himself is deficient in fulfilling Allah's rights, where Allah says, be faithful to your covenant with me, and I will fulfill my covenant with you. Surah Baqarah, ayat 40. So it says that it is nothing but Allah's grace that in spite of our failing in our covenant to Allah, that he listens to our prayer. And Dua Abu Hamza Thumali, it says, all praise be to Allah who responds to my call, whereas when he calls me, I am lazy in his response. All praise be to Allah who gives me whatever I ask him, though when he asks something from me, I am stingy. All praise for that Allah who sees my sins, but acts, he does not send his punishment immediately to me. He is so forgiving as if I have not even committed a single sin. There's a line of poetry that says, you usurp the property of Muslims, but when someone usurps yours, you protest and claim that no one is a Muslim anymore. So the person, they only concerned with their stuff but they cheat everybody else. So if one doesn't want to be cheated by others, then he needs to be honest in dealing with others. This is justice. The narrations also state that one who, he must wish for others what he wants for himself. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, 3 actions are the best. The people should receive complete justice from you so that you desire for them what you desire for yourself. You must cooperate monetarily with your brothers in faith. You must remember Allah in every condition. That remembrance is not merely saying Subhanallah or Alhamdulillah, but when some duty comes on you which Allah has ordered you to do, you must fulfill it. When some haram action is presented before you, you must leave it. This is the way to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib told Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhim as-salam in his will, O my child, make yourself the measure for dealings between you and others. Thus you should desire for others what you desire for yourself. Hate for others what you hate for yourself. Do not oppress as you do not want to be oppressed. Do well to others as you want good to be done to you. Regard bad for yourself whatever you regard bad for others. Accept that treatment from others which you would like others to accept from you. So we have to give what we want to receive. In Surah Hadid, Allah says, Certainly, we sent our apostles with clear arguments and sent down with them the book and the balance, that men may conduct themselves with equity. By the word balance, Allah means justice, and Allah has pointed a balance for everything. The belief of man and the truth and falsehood is also tested on this. The good and bad morals and qualities are also evaluated on the scales of justice. If men conform to justice in their speech and actions and belief and deeds, they will be able to establish justice in this world. I know we have a running out of time, but this is the last paragraph and we'll finish this chapter, inshallah. In one of the ziyarat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, we read, peace be upon the balances and the scales. So we find that in our traditions, that similar to the Sirat, the Mizan also has double meaning. There's a mention of actual physical scale, as I said, and we also have narrations that point to the scale being certain individuals. In Al-Kafi, we have an explanation why the plural form of scales, mawazin, is used in this verse. The hadith here, it says, and this is from the ayat, it says, وَنَضَعُ موازين القسط ليوم القيامة فلا تظلم نفس شيئا. So we see the plural of scale is used. Mizan is scale, mawazin is scales. So Hisham ibn Salim said that he asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam about this verse, and he said, we place the scales of justice for the day of resurrection, so no soul will be treated justly at all. The Imam replied, they, mawazin, the scales, are the prophets and the successors of the prophets. This is mentioned in Al-Kafi. So Imam Ali alayhi salam is the measure for distinguishing haq and batil, truth and falsehood. He's the touchstone for differentiating between good and evil. He is the scale for evaluating the good deeds and the morality. After the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, Imam Ali alayhi salam is the channel for our faith. He says, by comparing the deeds and faith with the speech and actions of Ahlul Bayt, we can distinguish between good and evil. If our belief and actions conform to the standards of Ahlul Bayt, they are correct. And if they aren't, they are of no use. Justice demands that we must not go to the extremes. We should neither exceed the limits nor remain deficient. The scales of justice are very accurate and can detect the weight even of a single strand of hair. After recognizing the path of justice, it is a formidable task to remain firm on this path. Very difficult, but it can be done. One who is successful in recognizing the true path and wishes to follow it is bestowed divine help. If it is this person who is proved correct by the scales of justice on the day of judgment. He crosses the difficult bridge of Sirat easily. One who is not just in this world is proved wrong in hereafter, and he will stumble on this bridge. The Quran says, and there is not one of you but shall come to it. This is an unavoidable decree from your Lord. And we will deliver those who guard it against evil, and we will leave the unjust therein on their knees. Surah Maryam, ayat 71 through 72. The author ends with this chapter. He says, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us on the way of justice and equity. May Allah include us among the pious and enable us to be saved from falling into the hellfire. And as I said, we have to remember the day of judgment. We have to not look at the action and what it will bring to me right now, when we need to look at what it will bring to me in akhirah. Look at the end result of the deed. If the deed will bring pleasure of Allah, we should do it. If it will bring displeasure of Allah, we must stay away from it. And we have to keep the day of judgment in our mind as though we can see it and we remember it. And this will help us in staying away from these type of sins that we think are just getting easy money. So we'll end here. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.